This is the Art and Business of Writing podcast. V Crum III helps entrepreneurs grow 6- and 7-figure conscious businesses that combine high profits with making a positive impact. He's a speaker, coach, Huffington Post columnist, and best-selling author of Conscious Millionaire, Grow Your Business by Making a Difference. He hosts the top-ranking Conscious Millionaire podcast and is the founder of ConsciousMillionaire.com, a global coaching and wealth product business. He holds an MBA, JD, Master in Psychology, and has built and sold several successful companies. JV, welcome to the show.
Well, listen, Chris, I am excited to be on this show, and especially excited to be on a show because, I'm an author of a book. I took 7 years and rewrote 7 times. So I really wrote the book as I go, yes, all those words are mine. And, and I have a Huffington Post column. So it's great to be on a show where writers are appreciated.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's, who we cater to. We love writers and being able to add value to what they do and help them to do it better. So thanks again, like I said, for joining us. So take us outside the lines a little bit. Tell us about yourself and really what Conscious Millionaire is all about.
Well, I'll start with me. I love a wide range of adventure. For me, I define what I want out of life both by what I give back. So that was me, for me, as Conscious Millionaire. And my target is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach their definition of financial freedom. And I have a nonprofit. I think we're already in about 10 countries. We've been going through applications. That's why I say I think it's about 10 countries. We work with youth who are doing projects, 18 to 25-year-olds, doing projects to uplift humanity, make this a better world. My target's to be in 160 countries in the next 10 years. And, thanks to the internet, this will be possible. And then on a personal level, to me, it's about a life of adventure. It's, I'm preparing that in the next 3 years, I want to start living outside the United States at least half the time. As I go, I love the United States and I've lived in great places, but there are other countries that I would like to live in before I leave this planet. And so I particularly like Asia. And I love Europe. I just think Asia is kind of an interesting place to explore. I like to camp, love being in nature, anything outdoors. I love the water, whitewater rafting. I grew up being on the swim team. I grew up in a little town on a 4-by-5 mile lake. So but then on the other end, I love arts and I love going to the symphony and I really love jazz and I love folk and I love blues. But then I like opera, so I like a wide range of things and I love to cook. And I love wines. I have a wine collection. So, it's kind of all over the board that I'm a very spiritual person. So my spirituality and meditating and eating healthy, all of those things are really important to me.
Now tell us a little bit about, kind of your writing life a little bit. We know you're an international best-selling author. You've got a book that's reached #1 in Amazon. Like, walk us through your writing journey. Like, what inspired you to take your message and kind of put it into print?
I think when I was 25 was really the first time I was aware that I was going to write a book. So that was like that inspiration. I'm going to write a book, right? But I knew that in my case, I was going to wait until I had some wisdom to impart, that it wasn't about that I just wanted to write a book at that age. Then when I started writing the book, I had already, created Conscious Millionaire, and I was coaching clients and helping clients who wanted to make a positive impact, but they wanted high profits as well. And I knew that's what I wanted to write the book about. But what I did not plan on was what happened. I thought that this was maybe a year journey. I mean, to write a major book, it's 320 pages. It does take time to go through the whole process, go through the editing. It actually ended up being a 7-year journey, which is a rather spiritual number, because along the way, I got mono twice and was in bed for 4 months each time. My father went into the dying process. He had Parkinson's while this was going on, and in the final stage had a stroke and was in a life care facility the last 4 months. So I was with him full time. And then I almost died, and I was in bed for 6 months. Each of these major things were time periods in which the book would actually be finished, and I'd have it off to an editor. And then, for instance, with mono, I'd lay in bed for those 4 months really sick. And what do? You think about every page in the book, right? And I came up with all these great new ideas and said, oh no, but I really want to change this way. And I really want to change that way. And so what I kept doing was upgrading the book and adding more quality to it and understanding how to make it into a great book. So you could argue that I could have written 2 or 3 books in that time period, but I wanted to write a book that could have a major impact, that people who read it, it would really impact their lives positively, and it would be a foundation piece for my organization, Conscious Millionaire Institute, and all the programs that we created. So there are 14 chapters in it. And while it's 320 pages, I can say that probably my future books will be, maybe 140 to 160. I think that's what a lot of people want. But I think it was also important to write the foundation book that had all the pieces that you needed, no matter where you are on your path, to build a 6 or 7 figure conscious millionaire business that was taking your difference you wanted to make, translating it into profits and making a difference to clients. So it was important to give you all the pieces initially.
Wow, what a story.
Yeah, I kind of go, it was really the right journey for me.
Yeah, yeah.
And then on the same time, I go, kids, don't try this at home. 7 years and completely rewriting the book, ultimately from start 7 times.
Wow.
And my friends about year 3 and 4, because none of them had written books at that time. And then, of course, you end up with a lot of friends who are writing books. And now I do a podcast. So I have a lot of friends who write books and a lot of people who do podcasts. I'd say most of my friends did one or the other, it seems, these days. And at some point, my friends were like going, are you on your second book? And I go, no, I'm still on the first book. Now, if they've never written a book, you have no idea what goes into writing. And you have no idea all the stuff you've got to work through. So I think I went through as I'd read about the process of writing, I think I went through every stage there is. I went through and my friends would laugh at this one because you can hear that I don't have trouble talking, right? Is they'd say, I went through the stage that I had nothing to say. I was sure nobody wanted to read anything I had to say, that I had nothing of value to give to the world. So I went through all of those things. And then, of course, the endless days of sitting with writer's block. We've all had that, right? Where you just can't even come up with a sentence you like. So I had to learn how you move through all of those, own myself and go, okay, look, because writing a book, especially when it's on a topic that's intimate to you, you're really putting yourself on the line. You're putting yourself out there. And you're opening yourself up for business critics and people reading it and saying, "Oh, I don't like this," or "I love this." But it is all at once exciting and scary at the same time.
Oh, absolutely. The writing process. It's funny. My wife, she's expecting we're having a baby soon.
Oh, and congratulations!
So, thanks. We're having a girl. Do
you named her yet?
Yeah, Olive. That's what we're gonna name her.
Olive. I love it. Worked for Popeye.
But it's funny because, she goes through, kind of her motions and being pregnant, where she has her ups and her downs. She's like, once this baby's done, I'm going to just have my time and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, you said that last time. And as soon as you had the baby, you were ready to do it all over again. And I told her, I was like,
it's kind of like you go on the roller coaster ride, right?
Yeah.
I remember that once I was with my dad. It was at Disneyland, right? I was on Matterhorn. I was a little kid. I think I was like 8 years old. And I was like screaming and yelling, oh my God. I was so scared all the way down. And I remember the moment we stood up and got out of the little car or whatever it was, I went, Daddy, can I go again?
Exactly. And that's how the writing process is.
Like,
as soon as
don't
you finish,
remember how scared you were 100 feet away?
Exactly. And the writing process is the same way. As soon as you're done, you want to do it all over again, despite all the pain and frustration of it. So I can totally relate to that.
But it is a journey.
It is.
I found it was a personal journey of growth. And I'm somebody who's not a fast writer. There are fast writers, there's slow writers. I'm a connect with the soul writer. Okay. And then I went to law school. My mom was an English teacher. So you kind of have some high standards going into this whole thing. And I want each sentence to convey the exact nuances. And when you've got 320 pages of these sentences and you write it 7 times, that's a lot of nuances. But it's like, I want it to really connect with the reader in a way that it's going to have an impact. And I have this phrase, I'm sure it's not just mine, but I call it the pregnant sentence. I love writing the pregnant sentence. And I love reading pregnant sentences where you can sit there for a half hour, because I'm kind of a slow reader as well, because I want to contemplate everything, right? And I come across a pregnant sentence where you can kind of unpack it and unpack it and unpack it. And like those are really powerful. Buckminster Fuller, if you've never read Buckminster Fuller, these are pregnant sentences. These are very
I'm going to have to borrow that term. I like that. Now, so, we talked about, just writing being a journey. Absolutely. Like, as you wrote, like, how did you like overcome those fears that you were going through as you were writing, just being the slow writer,
right.
Not feeling like you had something to say.
Direct answer, just being totally transparent is with a lot of agony. Truthfully, a lot of agony where I lived across from the athletic club that I was a member of. And I would go over and get like on the elliptical or the treadmill for like an hour. And it might be in the middle of the day. And I would be all blocked. And by the time I finished that, the energy's moving through your body. And all of a sudden your ideas are coming together. And then I'd go back and I could write. So I'd have to find ways to do that and to really give myself permission. A lot of times I'd meditate before I would write. So I had to open myself up. And then I've learned a technique, and I don't know how I could teach it to anyone, but I did learn it for myself, that I would kind of let my ego slide to the left. That's exactly what happened. And then the inspiration from wherever it came would come through me, and I would find myself writing sentences and paragraphs that as I wrote them, I really wasn't quite certain what I was writing. I wasn't channeling. I don't want to say I channeled this book, but what I'm saying is that I got out of the way of me even thinking about what the next word was, and those would always be the best pages, when I could do that.
Oh yeah, no, that's very true. It's funny because that's something that a lot of writers kind of talk about, just letting the words come through,
I literally had to get out of the way in trying to preconceive what the next sentence was and just let it come. And when I would reach those kind of states of zone and flow, everything would come together, and I'd read it and I'd go, oh my God, I can't believe I wrote that. How you can be, and it's not egotistical. You work so hard at it, and then you read something, you feel like crying because you go, my gosh, I love that paragraph. You're just in love with that paragraph. You just want to read it out loud a few times. Like, I love that paragraph.
Yeah. Now, what's the one thing that no one tells you about being a writer,
What was it? Nobody actually told me what I just discussed. And I know it's not novel to me, but yeah. I didn't read it in a book. I just kind of had to discover this part of getting out of the way to really allow Conscious Millionaire, the book, to come through me and kind of write itself. And then the inspiration would be extreme. And then you couldn't write fast enough, in fact. And you would like go from writer's block on one end of the continuum to several pages coming out of you. And if you're a writer, several pages at once is a lot, kind of coming out and going, wow, this is good. I'm really happy with how these concepts came together.
Right. Now, a little bit earlier, you mentioned how, you didn't want to start a book until you had come to a point where you had a message and some value to add. When did that point come for you?
Really kind of the beginning of my 50s is that I had, built and sold companies. I had lived at a Buddhist monastery. I had lived at Esalen. I'd lived in Boulder. I had done a lot of inner work. I had begun with a master's in clinical psych, and then I had a law degree and an MBA, and I was pre-med before all of that and pre-seminary in between all of that. Read a lot, been to, 30 years worth of transformational kind of seminars and trainings. So I had been through a lot of inner journey. And I think then I had something valuable to say. And I'm glad that I waited until then, because when people read the book, nothing makes me, happier, of course, as an author, when people go, oh my God, I have this by my books, by the side of my bed. And I'm like, so inspired by what you read. Well, that's why I wrote it, right? I wrote it to inspire the reader to go to new heights in their life, to build a business that matters, but also to take a personal journey, because being an entrepreneur, whether you're doing it as a writer, whether you're starting a formal business, or you're coaching, doing transformational work with people, a healer, it doesn't matter. It's really a personal growth journey of setting new goals for yourself, and then you've got to up-level yourself. your mind. You've got to change your patterns of thinking, your behaviors, your habits, your confidence in yourself, your willingness to get outside of your comfort zone. And I think as writers, that's when we do our best writing, is when we allow ourselves to go, get outside our comfort zone. I know that inside of me, I don't know exactly what it is, but I'll share this on the air, because I have a column at the Huffington Post. So I have, they have to accept it, so I'm going, it's a pretty progressive place. I think I can get by with a whole lot. And because we're in this, I'm not a super political person, but I do have my views, but I'm kind of feeling, I guess because the political campaign, for me, it has never been more bizarre. It's never been more of a circus. It's never been more of a revolution, that it's pretty clear that people are fed up with the traditional answers and they're looking for something new. And it's kind of getting me a little edgy to go say, I don't know what it is. That's what I'm saying. I'm not sure what it is, but I feel like I want to go out there and say something myself that kind of rocks people, kind of shakes them up and makes them think in a completely different way, and that I'm being very raw, I guess that'd be the word, in what I write. So something's bubbling up, and I know it's going to be radical. It's like I don't normally do radical writing, right? So it's kind of like, I'm just feeling like there's a lot of kind of radical thoughts going on here, and I'd kind of like to find out what mine are almost, and kind of put them out there on paper. Then, I guess I'm at a new stage where it's like, it's really okay for me if people don't like me. It's really okay if I say something and it's like, that's not exactly what somebody was hoping I would say, because I'd rather be authentic, because that's so much a part of who I am. It's Conscious Millionaire, it's Conscious World, it's how I live my personal life, and I'm real. And I've come to the point that being real is what's most important. It's just being who I am.
Absolutely. And I feel like, authenticity is always rewarded,
Yeah.
You see,
so something radical's coming out. I just don't know what it is.
I'll be waiting for it.
And it's kind of like you almost want to write it in a different style than you normally write. You just kind of want to go experiment. And that's the great thing about writing. It's like you're painting on the paper, except you're not painting with colors. You're painting with words.
Totally. Now, can you give us like the essence of what the Conscious Millionaire book is all about?
Sure, absolutely. Well, it's 14 chapters, and each one has models in it and builds on the same formula of conscious focused action, which is the wealth formula that runs all the way through the book. And then it takes each area, like leadership or habits or how to be more productive in the day, how to create your vision, how to discover your true north, how to even build your business model. So it takes those and it kind of puts them through that formula and gives you, as a result, a step-by-step approach to how you not only build your business, but how you become an inspired conscious leader, because that's really what the world needs. It needs entrepreneurs that are going out there doing things that create products and services that truly transform people, and at the same time are highly profitable. And they're highly profitable because you put together a sound business that in today's world is being very authentic. Because, I was thinking earlier today, and I'm going to give a shout out, it's a free shout out. I'm going to give a free shout out to 7th generation products. I'm going to use them as examples. So, I use 7th generation because I'm very environmentally prone. I think it would be great if, 2 generations from now, not just 7, that we actually have, unpolluted land people can live on, and we have water, and we have, rainforests still, so people can have oxygen, and we have a future for our planet and a future for humanity. I think that that's what we're each entrusted to assure. So there are lots of environmentally friendly products that probably on a quality level are just as good as 7th generation, but 7th generation has something that they don't. They've created a vision of making certain that you're aware that every action that you do has an effect for 7 generations forward. And so I love that vision of every time I, pick up my dishwashing liquid, and it's 7th generation, or I do a load of laundry and it's 7th generation, is that I, have a moment that I think I'm positively impacting the world for the next 7 generations. So the vision makes me become a customer. Actually, not the product, because there are other products that are probably as good, but the vision brings me in.
Absolutely. And that's the stuff they teach you in kind of the basic kind of business circles and networking. It's really that people buy into you. They buy into your vision. That's very true.
And so Conscious Millionaire is the vision of you discovering your true north. What is that passionate difference you want to do on the earth that you have strengths to do? And then realizing that should impact how you live your life, because it's really your compass setting and it's inside of you. And when you discover it, it impacts who you want to hang out with as friends. It impacts the kinds of entertainment you like. It impacts your whole life, because all of a sudden you become conscious. You become aware. You become awakened to, oh, this really is my natural destiny. This is where I can go with my life and be triumphant. And it should be in the center of your business, so that you're building a really rock solid, sound financial business based on a bigger vision than I just want to sell something and put money in the bank. It's based on a vision of that good that you can do, of that transformation that you can create in another person's life. And that will get you and your team on fire. And like I'm attracted to seventh generation, it will attract people who love your vision and they want to be a part of it. They want to taste it. They want the results you're talking about. So like if seventh generation didn't work, it was fraudulent, it actually polluted the environment, then I wouldn't care what the vision was. So you've got to deliver products and services that are aligned with that vision, that are, that actually give your customers the results of that vision, but it's the vision that will emotionally connect with their hearts and soul.
And I'm glad that we're kind of on this kind of topic of vision, because, our listeners, as writers, we want to entertain our readers. We want to inform them. We want to really make a difference in their lives.
And inspire and empower them many times.
Yes. And you've done that through your work. Like, How can writers, begin to create that for themselves like you did? Like you started, with your book, you put it in the Kindle store, you've been able to get it out to people. How did you do that? How did you get your book out to so many people so that you could have that kind of impact?
Yeah. Well, actually, I would like to offer something that's really, it's how you build your business, but it's also how you achieve anything that you want. And it's my formula for creating wealth. It's conscious, focused action. And this isn't, sometimes you sit down and you kind of create something because it'll get a result. But I wrote a book and had to go back, and my editor said, now you've got to tell your story, which was actually the scary part, right? But in telling my story, I had to figure out what my story was, because I knew the surface. I knew what happened and the results I got. I knew that in 3 years, I went from being broke to a 4-story luxury home on the water and a Mercedes and, making the first million. But I actually, until I analyzed it for writing, didn't actually know what I did, how I did it. I didn't know the process, because I was in the process. And when I went back and analyzed, I realized I was doing the same 3 steps over and over and over again. And it's conscious, focused action. We don't have time to get into all the dynamics of it, but what I do want to do is give you an ebook that's got all the steps and 2 more, results and learning, because those were also going on. But it also has a link that'll give you videos about how you can apply this to your business. And as a writer, even if you are totally into writing for the artistic part, the truth is you've got to pay your bills. And the truth is that you want to create great writing that has a result, that has a certain impact. This same formula applies to that. It's being conscious of the exact result you want to achieve. It gives you exactly what to do at that level, then how to focus not just your mind, but your heart, so that all of your heart's in it and your body is capable. So that's why health and fitness is so important. And then exactly how to handle the actions so that you are practically assured that if you do these things day after day after day after day, you will achieve whatever that number one priority is that you're now laser focused on. And it'll help you get rid of, honestly, a lot of us, before we apply something like this, are doing on a given day, 80% of what we do is unproductive. It's not getting us to a given result. But until you know what that given result is and you have a process, a set of steps for what will precisely and in the highest level allow you to get to that result that you want and compel you there, it's going to be hard to get there. And so you can get that at consciousmillionaire.com. And it's a hidden page. It's consciousmillionaire.com/wealth formula. It's just no spaces, consciousmillionaire.com/wealth formula. And you can go download that. And as a writer, this is something that's going to really not only help you understand how to get to the end result of writing by being so focused, but also how to get to the end result of how do you want to get your book out there? How do you want to connect with the public? How do you want to get the book sold? Because it will give you the decision process of being able to choose the right steps. And it's those right steps that will get you there.
Excellent. And if you're listening, you'll be able to get these the link in the show notes. I'll make sure that they're there for you so you can download JV's wealth book. I think that's an awesome idea, and I think it's a great way for writers to be able to, like you said, have the steps, because everything, is built on a foundation, not just kind of haphazardly.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And we want to be efficient as writers. And by efficient, it doesn't mean that you don't take the time to be soulful, because I'm a very soulful writer. But it means that we want to be efficient in not wasting the rest of our time so that we can be the most productive and be able to go out and connect with the people that we're wanting to connect with, because we're not writing in a vacuum. We're writing for a purpose. And that purpose ultimately is to connect in some way with our readers.
Now, that's another great point that I'm glad you actually made. Just that whole idea of connecting, because you've been talking about just kind of being conscious, being aware. Like, what are some tips, or what are some ways that you connect with people that you found to be very effective for you?
Well, one way is what we're doing, Chris. Last week I was a guest on over 20 shows. I'm a guest on a lot of shows. I have 2 podcasts. So in addition to writing, I really enjoy the microphone. Now, if the microphone isn't for you, then another way you can do that is blog. And of course, get your articles at places like the Huffington Post. Go to the magazines online and get your articles out there. Go be guest blogger. We do a lot with social media. So we're constantly using different channels, especially LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook. And now we're looking at Instagram and YouTube for some things that we want to do to get out messages that will link back to what we're doing. So we're getting our content out there. And the more you do that, then people hear about you in one place, and then they hear about you in another place. And when I go to conferences, a significant number of the people have heard in some way or another about Conscious Millionaire. And it's a ongoing yet building process. So think of it as logarithmic. So what you do the first month, whatever it is you're doing, let's just say you're starting out your first month, it's not going to have a huge impact by the end of 30 days. But the longer you do it, things begin in a way to kind of spider web. So this goes in one direction and then it connects to something else. And it's like every show that I'm on, I'm reaching a different audience. Every blog that you guest blog on, you're reaching a different audience. If you're sending out different tweets, I have, Jimmy Ray is a friend of mine. He writes romance novels, and he makes his living selling those on Amazon. He is kind of like the king of Twitter. He taught me more about Twitter than anybody. He sat down with me and we learned a lot very quickly. He has, I believe, like 750,000 Twitter followers. And he's not the super famous person, but he's made himself an authority in the area that he's in. And he has learned how to connect and how to retweet and how, keeps a list of all the people who retweet him. And he goes and thanks them. So he has a whole system down for how he does that. And the more he does it, the more it just goes out in more and more directions, because when you get something retweeted, well, that's a whole new universe that's hearing about you.
And that's an important thing. For those listening, JV's really kind of calling us out and calling us higher, because I know for writers, we tend to be more introverted. We tend to be more into ourselves, and just being able to make those touch points is going to make us more human. It's going to help us to have more contact with people. Now, JV, something you mentioned kind of in a roundabout way, but not directly, but I want you to talk about a little bit, is just the power of consistency, and really how those consistent actions that you've been doing over the social networks and with your book and your podcast, how those consistent actions boost your credibility.
Oh, well, absolutely. And it boosts your credibility at a very high level. So let's just take the podcast, because that's something we've done. We started our podcast, launched it just really a year ago. And in 1 year, we've had over 2 million downloads. It's gotten me on, this year I will have been over 100 shows that I've gotten on, radio, podcast. And it's really gotten me out in the world. Likewise, the book, we tweet about the book every week. We give links every week. And so our book is constantly remaining as a bestseller because we're constantly sending traffic there. So it is absolutely the consistency. It would be like, think of it this way, because it's immediately obvious. One of our podcasts is 5 days a week. We've never missed a show. In fact, we're usually 3 months ahead on our recordings because I was in Boy Scouts and I really took Be Prepared seriously. But we don't ever miss that. And so people have a regularity to it and they know they can depend. There's going to be 5 times a week. Now, they may not be interested in every topic, but they know we're going to put out great content and we're going to have great guests and we're going to do it 5 days a week. The same thing is true is that if you're just being very haphazard about how you promote your writing and your book and how you promote yourself as a writer, you're going to get haphazard results. And that's going to be true in any area of your life. If you're doing a diet, but you're not consistent about it, you cannot expect to lose weight, right? If you want to build your body, but you only go to the gym 1 week, you go to the gym 4 or 5 days. Well, okay, that sounds great. But then you don't go for 2 weeks. Well, that 4 or 5 days from that 1 week is kind of atrophied. We all know that. The same thing happens. It's like the hardest part is at the beginning. You've got to get the momentum going. It takes 4 or 5 times more energy to get the momentum going than it does to keep it going. But once you've got it going, then it starts the spider web for you. And it only gets going because you are consistent. Day after day, you have, if it's that you're going to go and tweet about it a half hour a day, okay, then go spend your half hour a day. Fortunately, we talk about consistency. There's some great ways that you can set it up. There's lots of different Twitter software. We use several of them. And so on Thursdays, we set up all of our marketing for the next week for everything through all of our channels. It's already set up. It's done. And over the weekend, we have lots of images that we print. So over the weekend, between Friday and the end of the weekend, I have one assistant, and I told him it's fine with me. You can get it all done Friday, or you can do it over the weekend. As long as come Monday morning, it's all done, I'm good. And so all of that's posted for 7 days in advance. So that's one way that you can be consistent, is that we batch things. And I think as writers, batching is really critical because it's easier to say, like when I'm going to do something like writing, to me, that's slow energy kind of work. That's thoughtful. That's, I want to go meditate for 15 minutes. I don't want to be on phone calls. I don't want to be looking at social media. I don't want to have any interruptions that require what I call fast kind of thinking, right? And I don't mean that as a writer, I don't have moments of just, wow, powerful inspiration, and every kind of thing kind of speeds up in your mind. But it is a process where you kind of need to settle the soul down. You need to kind of empty the mind. You kind of need to be very, very present and not distracted by anything. So if I have a half hour between, say, I'm on shows one day, I don't write. I only write. I batch it. And I'll want 3 or 4 hours, 2 or 3 at the minimum, so I can settle my energy and kind of put myself in almost in a cave, let's just say, kind of a cocoon, right? A cocoon's probably a better analogy. And so then I just do writing things. But then if you're going to do social media stuff, do it once a week and get it set up for everything. And then you have your consistency. So there's ways to be consistent, and it doesn't mean you have to find time every day. But you've got to be consistent in marketing yourselves. And I think that's one of the biggest weaknesses a lot of writers have, is not being strategic and highly focused on this marketing piece. I had somebody tell me this, and while I was writing the book, I didn't believe it. Because, writing the book is a lot of work, right? And they kept saying, writing the book's only 5%, marketing is 95%. Well, I knew that marketing would be a big thing, but I keep going, no, this seems like a lot more than 5%. But the truth is, the success comes from marketing yourself, getting yourself out there, speaking, We're about to book me all over, where I live, and I'm going to be out at civic clubs and business organizations speaking for free. But you know what? I get clients. I'll take the book. I'll raffle it off. Now everybody in the room knows about the book, right? And so even if you can't sell something to that group, you just sold them on your book because you planted a seed in their head, and you had your book there in your hand, and you're going to raffle it off, and you're going to sign it to somebody, and everybody else that didn't get the book is going to be thinking about it. And you're going to get sales like that. But that's what you have to do. Yeah, for lack of a better word, you've got to go hustle. And hustle in the positive way. You've got to get yourself out there one way or another, and actually multiple ways. But I would say choose a limited number, but be highly focused. Go really deep in those areas. So then you connect with a population that's thinking about you all the time because you're out in front of them.
Right. There's an analogy that I've heard guys like John Lee Dumas use where they say, go 1 inch wide and 1 mile deep.
I think that's exactly right.
Well, great. We're going to come in for a landing here. You've added so much great value. I feel like, the audience is going to be very enriched from listening to this podcast episode and just being able to glean a lot from the show notes. But I'm just going to ask you a few just kind of random questions just to get personality from you. So first of all, tell us some of the writers and authors that you admire and that you read.
Gosh, I read a lot of business authors. So right now on my nightstand, I have Michael Port, who I've actually had on my show, and I'm reading his book, Book Yourself Solid. And he has another book out on October 6th that I was fortunate enough, he's sending me a signed copy the day it comes out, and called Steal the Show. So I'm reading Book Yourself Solid because I like to read books that really... And it's what I did the 6th and 7th time I wrote my book. I did the same thing he did. I put exercise, I put coaching in every chapter because I started realizing I read a lot of business books, but a lot of business books, you get great ideas, but you actually don't know how to do anything different than what you knew on page 1. And so now I'm more enamored by business books that actually have some exercises in them, some coaching, some takeaways, some go apply this to your life or your business or your finances or whatever it is about. And so I like those kind of books. So right now I'm reading Michael Port.
Okay. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received with regards to personal development or business or just life in general?
Well, one of my mentors that I've worked with the last couple of years is Gary Ryan Blair, who's created the 100-Day Challenge. And I deeply admire him. I think that he has, first of all, we have a lot of values in common about honesty and integrity and making a difference in the world. And certainly we really have a strong value about self-responsibility. And he has a book, and it's also one of his mottos is everything counts. And what I take away from that is it's every thought, every emotion, every action, every second. There is no such thing as off time in the sense that you're not, that you're out of the time, that you're not nothing, that something isn't counting. And he uses the analogy at every moment you're either moving toward a goal or you're moving away from a goal. So when that has really inspired me to realize at a nuanced level the reality of just how every nanosecond, everything counts. Everything that we do in our life counts. And that inspired me really about five months ago. I asked myself, what was my number? Now, I wasn't asking what was the amount of money I wanted to make. I'd already figured that part out. My number was how many people do I want to positively impact in my lifetime? And I spent an evening really working on it and inspiring myself. And I got to the number of 1 billion. Now, I've learned that I have a fairly visionary mind at night, and I literally need to examine my visions from the night in the light of day, quite literally. So in the light of day, I went to my whiteboards, and I had to prove to my logical mind that that was actually possible. And once I proved to my logical mind that that made sense, I said, that's it. That's the big number. I want to leave this planet having positively impacted at least 1 billion people. And now that inspires me into my everything counts as to why am I taking the actions? Why am I making these decisions? Why am I acting on this opportunity? Is it moving me towards that ultimate outcome for my life, or is it moving me away from it? And it helps me realize there's no such thing as going down a side tributary, because that's actually moving you away from it. It's not really going down the side because you're really wasting time, money, and energy. You're either moving forward or you're not moving forward. And if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards because you wasted that moment.
Now, what are some tools that you enjoy using, like some sort of tech that kind of makes your life better, something that you use in business?
Well, absolutely. Well, I had my assistant working on it, my copywriter working on it, and then tonight I'm going to tweak it. And we use lead pages for a lot of our landing pages. So I have people that are going to be signing up for a webinar next Wednesday. Saturday, we'll send out the first email. And we have very, very good success with lead pages, setting up our landing pages on lead pages.
Awesome. Now, can you tell our listeners how they can get in touch with you?
Absolutely. Go to consciousmillionaire.com. We have a blog there. I'm also going to suggest just click on the podcast and subscribe to that because we have two different podcasts. One's 5 days a week called Conscious Millionaire Podcast. It's business coaching for conscious entrepreneurs. And if you're a writer, I think you are an entrepreneur. You need to embrace that. And you certainly on a conscious path if you're wanting to uplift and empower your audience. And then another one, because I realized I got out of shape when I was taking care of my dad when he died. And so I've started another one, Conscious Millionaire Health Reality Show. And we do interviews with experts. It's a great show. It's 16 minutes. It's 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You can sign up for that. And, most of all, go and get the ebook. It's 60 pages. It has diagrams in it, and it has links so you can read it. You can go watch the videos. You can get the learning in multiple ways. And that's at consciousmillionaire.com/wealth formula.
Awesome. JV, thank you for your time. It was great to have you on the show.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. It's actually my honor, and it's a lot of fun, and you have a great show. I just want to commend you for the work that you're doing in the world and with writers and, making your difference.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Wow. What an inspiring episode. If you weren't able to take notes, I've got you covered. Visit my website at www.chrisjonesinc.com/podcast to get today's show notes, as well as access other episodes you may have missed. Be sure to subscribe and rate the podcast on iTunes. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time.